Now, always deciding when to begin is a tricky time. John Adams, who probably had as much right as anyone to an opinion on this, said that the revolution began in 1760 and it was accomplished by 1775, before, as he said, a drop of blood was shed on Lexington Green. The revolution, and after that, he said, the war for independence began. The revolution was something that happened in the minds of people as they decided how they would be governed. And we can see this happening in the years before 1776, when, as we know, independence is declared and the nation traces its origins to that auspicious day. I'm not going to begin in 1760. You'll be happy to know, perhaps, I guess on the drinking portion of the evening I can talk about that. So 1773 I always see as the time or the moment or the year from which there would be no turning back. And it was a tranquil year. In fact, Governor Thomas Hutchinson said that in 1772 he wrote about how calm things were in Massachusetts, which had had a turbulent decade of the 1760s. And then, of course, there was that unhappy event on King Street on March 5th, 1770. But 1772, he said, things were relatively tranquil. We get along very well here. And he said if it weren't for an Adams or two, we would get along even better. Now, what were the Adamses doing to trouble Governor Hutchinson? Samuel was the clerk of the Massachusetts Assembly and the leader of the Boston town meeting, and he was busy during this tranquil time of 1772 organizing committees of correspondence, official bodies of the Boston town meeting that would correspond with other towns in the province of Massachusetts. And as clerk of the Massachusetts Assembly, he organized a committee of correspondence to write to the other colonies. And in the scheme of thinking in London, of course, the American colonies really had no formal connection with one another. They would communicate through their royal governors to the British Crown or to the Lords of Trade, and then any communication they needed with other colonies would go by way of London. But Adams, through the Massachusetts Assembly, organized a network of communications with the other colonies and finding in other colonies like-minded individuals to write back. Very unusual to find someone who would not agree with Samuel Adams agreeing to be on one of these committees to write back. And this ensured, when the trouble begins in 1773 and 1774, that the story from Boston and the story from Massachusetts is the one being told in New York, Philadelphia, Charlestown, Annapolis, and so on. John Adams, and Samuel also was organizing the annual commemorations on March the 5th, the day he wanted to remember and live in infamy, the 5th of March, every year observed with an oration and with illuminations. People would illuminate their windows with sayings and cutouts of the malefactors of March the 5th. And remembering that day as a somber day, a day of reflection. John Adams, now a member of the Massachusetts Assembly, in 1772 raised the hackles of Governor Hutchinson with what seemed like an audacious proposal. After the massacre and after the trial of the British soldiers, who were, as you know, acquitted except for two, who were branded on the thumbs and sent to New Jersey, which was probably punishment enough for anyone. The British Crown began worrying about what would happen the next time Crown officials got into trouble in one of these provinces in the execution of their duty. Would they be as lucky as these soldiers who were acquitted? And they worried about the course of justice in the American colonies and decided as a way of ensuring impartiality among the jurists in Massachusetts and the other colonies that the Crown would pay the judges. Every year, the judges here would receive a 200-pound stipend from the British Crown as a way of ensuring that they wouldn't be beholden to the mobs. I'm always afraid of raising this issue, fearing that someone connected with the current government of Massachusetts will hear that the British Crown wants to pay the judges here. Maybe we can get them to